expecting this to be a whatever important meeting be in January.
And with football on.
Yeah. So it's Monday, January 13th, 2025, Old Farm District January meeting. We also have Jim from Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association here, or Neighborhood District. We've got a pretty interesting agenda. Some of it's planning for us. We've talked a little bit about it. We will reach out for public input. Let's start off. I'm James DeRofi, the board chair.
Karen Johnson, land use chair.
Jen Sawyer, social media.
Ross Tenty, board member.
And Jim Crystal, board chair of Southeast Bend Neighborhood District.
And for those joining us online, be sure to raise your hand and turn your camera on if you have any questions. We are recording all of these to YouTube. We do keep them as our version of minutes. That said, let's go right into it with a quick land use update. Karen.
For those of you who have been following the affordable housing crisis, they call the Bend the Pines School District is doing some interesting things. They have sold 1.1 acres of the Silver Rail Elementary School property to Habitat for Humanity, which is going to build 18 units, 9 two-unit structures on that property, and it'll be deed restricted. It'll be for teachers and school district employees. And a public meeting to rezone or to change the master plan for Stone Creek was held today. The school district also has sold 2.5 acres by Summit High School to do a similar complex. And again, that'll be deed restricted and just for school employees, arguably preference given to teachers. So that's I think, a creative and interesting and really proactive way to help their employees get some housing. So that's what I did this afternoon. Outside the public meeting.
Karen, do you by chance know the status on the commercial across from Silver Rail? That there was a multi-use, mixed-use commercial that they told us about a year ago.
Yeah, and I stopped by, and I do not know. I didn't see anything to indicate what's happening there. I should follow up on that.
And for the public record, the board has been discussing a concern of ours. And now that Jim's here, it'll be interesting to get his take on it. Essentially, since the last urban growth boundary expansion, the city councils have been kicking the can down the road regarding not just boundaries, but how neighborhood districts are supposed to deal with logistically these new areas in the new urban growth boundaries. We recently came aware, we knew it was happening, we saw it, but we didn't get any of the legal land use notifications. For people that are familiar with the new library construction site, about a few hundred feet to the east of it, there's a bunch of houses that have been built. So they're technically inside city limits. We are technically their closest neighborhood district, but we are beyond 500 feet. So we receive 0 public land use notifications regarding a bunch of homes. And if they continue building in the center of Stevens Ranch going east, then essentially all land use notifications that have been guiding Oregon for a half a century are becoming irrelevant for all development over there. And then what also could occur in the Caldera expansion or Caldera Ranch. So we looked at the map. So we won't be getting notices, you will. But if they start building in the middle of it first, if they're more than 500 feet from 27th or from Knott Road, you won't. And the city needs to address this. Karen, you as our land use chair, I think it would be great if you could pen a letter to city council and to city staff asking them to address this. Would you be willing to take that task on?
Yes, I would do that. And ideally, you'd like to present it Wednesday, right?
I think it should be presented to the city council on Wednesday. I sort of have a conflict of interest on Wednesday, but if you wouldn't mind reading the letter, that would be great. And then we can put it on our website and as well as social media. But literally, we are talking about the future of thousands of homes being constructed that will not follow normal land use notification rules. Great, thank you, Karen, for that.
Their ranch could be the same thing depending on where they start building. Because our closest is, I think, Brightonwood Estates. Not sure there's anything north of Knott Road that's 500 feet. Maybe something in Windsor area. But I have to look at the map.
I can bring that up.
Let's bring it up. It's worthy of a chat because
This is one of the chat. Yes. Unless it's in the newspaper or something like that, it's hard to find out.
well, if it's, the thing is, without the public land use notifications, that means there's no even public discussion of what's going on, sidewalks, construction, safety hazards, road delays, anything like that.
So the area we're talking about for Caldera Ranch is right here. Right? Give me a minute, let me get rid of this.
So yeah, that definitely borders you, but if they start on that super bright red spot or even slightly south of that,
East of that.
yeah, then that would be beyond 500 feet.
So you would, yeah.
Because Brightonwood is not in Southeast Bend district, is it? I thought everything south of Knott Road in here was
So
outside
there's a
of it.
little part just south of Knott Road that is in the city limits, and it's basically.
That's by Country Club, correct?
No, it's actually kind of right next to you
Brightonwood
there.
is in the city limits.
Yeah.
Brightonwood is, okay, I thought it was just down like Mazama Place and down here, but Brightonwood is as well in great.
Is in-
Yeah, it's in the city limits. Now, I think our bylaws probably do not include that little area. Go down to Knott Road to the south, so it may not even be in Southeast Bend.
So once again, this is something that neither your district or our district has any way to address. We need the city to resolve this. We realized this starting in 2016 at the last urban growth boundary expansion. But it's literally now, it's time to talk about it. It's not, or not talk about it. It's time to, they need to come to a decision. Of just 500 feet notifications. Like how are we supposed to do that?
Yeah, I think there's another big problem there is they're gonna be totally unrepresented for quite a long time. Even if as new people come in, based on my understanding of the law, then you've got to get at least 1,000 people in there to have a new neighborhood district.
Yep.
And that could be problematic because then how does that happen? And, puts a tremendous burden on them, I guess, to go around and get 1,000 signatures.
Well, they will literally be left out of public land use rules.
The homes along to Campy there, that border the Caldera Ranch, to the east of that, are within 500 feet, I think.
Yeah, but that's outside.
That's outside of city limits and outside of the urban growth boundary.
Because the developer has to notify anyone within 500 feet. regardless of whether they're city or-
Correct, but none of the districts would know about it.
So what we're planning on is to get the people along to Campy. We want to get organized with Woodside. And the reason for doing that, my reason for doing that is they have to be notified, all developers out there. Once they're notified, we can notify everybody else.
You've wanted bigger boundaries. This is a possibility of bigger boundaries, but they have to, in order for the neighborhood districts to be involved, they have to be not only just inside the UGB, but inside the city limits. So your notification processes, that means you're gonna have to take on your own governance of all of everything and essentially create a rural interface district unless you get annexed. And I just made that word up.
Yeah. I think if they get organized, they are getting organized, ones that can't be. That we can get information on the development. So you're saying that even if you get the information, you cannot show up at city council meetings, comment on the Caldera Ranch?
No, technically, we could do that as citizens. We just can't do that as a neighborhood district.
Yeah. That's all right.
That just means you're relying on a few tax lots to keep thousands of people informed.
Right.
Where normally, anybody who borders a neighborhood district, the entire district has the
Right.
option of getting the
Yeah,
information.
I'm just saying this is a way to get the information. Even though they're not gonna send it to the neighborhood districts.
Yeah, I mean, if,
And then what we do with it-
if those people on Campy were smart, they would send it to both us.
Send it to everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do just what Jen does is post it on next one. And you know it.
Yeah, I mean, so right now it's depending on what the land use is, sometimes the public only has 14 days to comment.
Not
So-
sometimes, it's all the time.
And it's 721 homes or something like that?
Yes.
The building, okay.
For that,
For
Yeah.
Caldera, I think it's
For
seven.
Caldera, this.
so what we're talking about in Stevens Ranch, they've already built a number of homes that completely happened.
All right.
The only people that legally had to be notified were the developer that sold them the land.
There's no way around that one.
Sure there is. This is where the letter comes in and we're gonna say the city needs to amend something and change the rules for a distance of notification. or-
This is an old photograph, obviously, an old satellite photo, but there's like 40 or 50 homes that are complete at this point.
At least. Karen, you toured them at, would you say
Yeah,
40
no,
homes?
I'd say there are about 20 homes
20, okay.
that are.
That are complete, but another,
that-
I mean, there's
I
hundreds
went
of,
to the
like,
open house,
there's
but
hundreds of
the
lots
one
and
in Front
stub
Street,
outs.
about 20
Yeah.
homes.
because just looking at the wildfire map, this is the library over here on the left.
Yeah, so basically all that weird shape is where I'm talking about. So I mean, it's,
They're starting to build out,
yeah, all of
Stevens
that is
Ranch.
beyond our 500 feet.
Do they have to notify the library about that?
Yeah, they did, but at that time, the library wasn't even a building. So the library board would have been notified. Whether or not they decided to tell anybody about it would have been up to them.
should have been notified anyway.
Yeah, because they're a property owner. So, yeah, that's just an interesting thing. Thank Karen, work on that. And if we can just do that during the 3 minutes of presentation on Wednesday, that'll be great. And then very quickly, if everybody hasn't heard yet, Reed Market, the feds gave the city of Bend the 32 million, I think, to pay for Reed Market.
Like that, yeah.
So at this point, city's all stoked. They've got their money to supposedly pay for it. We have no idea what it's gonna look like, how it's gonna act, or anything like that. And when we had their meeting last month, it was rather interesting. They literally, that little purple shape is all they would answer questions on. They would not answer a question on anything else.
Right.
We think that since this is being prioritized due to the development that's occurring, Stevens Ranch, Stevens Tract to the south of town, we're gonna try to reach out to the city as well and have them prioritize some lower priority intersections in the southeast side of town, specifically along 15th, 27th, not Peril, Country Club, because if anything does happen in the 2 or 3 years that they're building Reed Market, that is, our escape routes are gonna be limited to basically 27th Street North, and that's it. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah, there needs like the 15th and Ferguson roundabout. I would like to see that complete. I'm not sure about Desert Wood and King Hezekiah.
Do we know that the 15th roundabout will be closed? I mean, because the railroad's quite, what,
So the way that they've decided to do the Reed Market upgrades, all of the money and everything that you hear on the news is only the overpass.
Right.
The 15th and Reed Market upgrade is a separate project with funds from the GO bond.
And so is there any reason why if they're working on the railroad, that intersection would be closed?
No, but there is not, but the way the bond is written, they have to have it all basically started or almost finished by 2030. So the question is, do you do the Reed Market roundabout first and then the train tracks? Or do you do the train tracks and then the roundabout? And then at the flip side, on the GO bond, if you can go over to Peril and the Broster House corner.
Okay.
Go south, Peril.
This is Peril and Broster House.
Yeah, so yeah, but follow Broster House south.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that intersection, okay.
So then that intersection from Chase, that is supposed to be improved from Broster House to Chase, and then specifically when you go to Peril,
Right now, right?
There's a gate there, yeah.
yeah, so and specifically when you go to Peril and Chase. So if you go from Chase to what is that, Powers or what's that road?
Yeah, ours.
So that right there, that little weird thing is supposed to have a double roundabout put in,
Double, like a dog bone?
a dog bone.
Okay.
Well, the reason why is because traffic will have, a new east-west corridor is supposed to be created along Powers through Chase onto Broster House.
Oh, wow, okay. That's
So it's
a lot
all
of traffic
there,
through that neighborhood.
huh?
It's a lot of traffic through that neighborhood.
It is. And that map isn't that photo looks a bit old, but they've been upgrading it, and that's why there's that gate, because they're trying to not have people use it yet. But it would be nice if before the railroad gets shut down for a couple of years, that got finished. That would definitely change the traffic patterns along Murphy as well. And that has funding. So that's part of the GO bond, what I just described along Peril.
Gotcha, so, okay. Should be great for Adhesion's vinyl business.
Huh?
Should be great for Adhesion's vinyl business.
Yeah. And then, and ultimately, in previous NSSP requests, the Old Farm has requested that Benham gets street calming measures installed.
That's the north-south route.
That's a very big north-south, right through nothing but residential. And if they could put those calming measures in once again before the overpass gets shut down, that would be nice for all of those people that live in that area. Wouldn't you say, Jen?
Yeah, sure would. Sure would.
What's next on the agenda?
We covered Reed Market and that project. Anything more on that?
Unless anyone has
Are
questions.
there any more? Looks like there's going to be more open houses down the road, but there was just one back in December. Okay. So no, then the next big ticket item was wildfires risk map that came out.
Why don't you take the lead on this?
You want me to take the lead on that?
Well, it gets my blood pressure a little bit red when I talk about it.
Gotcha. So I think we sent this out in our notifications, and I don't know if we posted it to our website yet, but at Old Farm Bend, if it isn't on there already, it will be out on there within the next week or so. But Oregon State University worked for the state of Oregon to develop and distribute an Oregon wildfire risk assessment. And that is broken down by the tax lot across Oregon. I've of course zoomed into primarily the Old Farm District is what you see on this map. And as you can probably make out from the legend, and I'll bring that up, Anything in green is considered low hazard. Anything in purple is considered a moderate hazard. Anything in red or orange, whatever that is a high hazard. We don't have much, technically any in Old Farm District that is a high hazard, but there is some on the outskirts. And for those friends of ours in the room, Woodside Ranch and some other areas south of Knott Road do have high risk lots, literally lots with homes on them that are labeled as high risk. And that assessment is essentially based on the proximity of homes to wildfire fuel, like trees and brush, things of that nature. And that's why these homes down on the corners would, I'm assuming that they're very close to a lot of wildfire fuel. They are listed as a high hazard, higher risk location.
They're also listed as that because of the terrain. They're on a rise.
Okay. So where the winds can basically take the fire.
The fire just sweep uphill on its own.
And then there's a massive area inside the elbow
Yes.
and essentially all of Stevens tract.
It's high.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can see there.
So, yeah, so this is Stevens Ranch and the library. And then to the east of that is Stevens Tract. And that's all listed as high hazard. So that'll have a higher requirements for building.
So at this point, our board has talked. We have a general meeting coming up. We're gonna make this the priority topic of the meeting.
For a general meeting in March,
So
April.
let's decide if we can, when we'd like to do that meeting, in the next 10 minutes. And then we need, I think we should, I've already talked with, Melissa Steele, a fire inspector, I think for Deschutes County, if not the city of Bend, for the city of Bend. She's willing to show up. I just have to give her a formal invitation. I also think we should have somebody from the Bend Development Department to explain what housing is gonna, what these upgraded housing standards are gonna be. I'm sure we'll, as always, invite our council representative, Mike Riley, if he, well, actually, he might not be. They may reassign everybody this week. Council tends to do that. Well, it's a new council, so we don't know what they're gonna do in the future. And explain to everybody on the southeast side of town the true ramifications of this. As everybody knows, there's crazy wildfires going on in California, and they're, although they're wild, they're called wildfires. They're actually urban,
Cataclysms.
fires. So yes, there's different conditions down there, but the density down there is significantly less than what is being proposed that they're going to be building here.
Well, if that fire goes into Santa Monica, your statement is not going to be true anymore because Santa Monica is pretty dense.
No, I'm saying it's more dense down there.
Oh, you said less dense, so.
Yeah, no, like literally, what?
Along the Palisades and the ocean, yeah, there's a lot of rich properties there and they're big. So there's less dense there, but as you get closer to Santa Monica, it gets more dense.
Yeah. And what they're proposing is going from less dense to extreme dense. No one in this room, and I'm gonna just say that arrogantly, we have no idea what this will mean. I've thought about it, talked with people. It's relatively scary. There are insurance ramifications. There are construction cost ramifications. There are safety ramifications when it comes to escape routes. I know you've been continuing to work with Woodside Ranch. Where are you guys at in regards to your talks with the city? I mean, you're only purple, but inside they're literally, we're looking at, that's almost 800 acres. If you do Stevens Tract and that area, maybe 600 acres inside our current urban growth boundary of extreme risk.
Yeah. I think it's a foregone conclusion that the city is going to build there. Take it in as UGB, incorporated into the city limits.
Well, it's already part of the UGB.
The Caldera Ranch.
Well, no, I'm not talking about Caldera
Oh, you're
Ranch.
talking about Stevens.
I'm literally talking about the Southeast area plan is already part
Yeah.
of the urban growth boundary. It's already designated to be built on, and the state has just said it's extreme fire risk.
Right.
The city needs to explain to everybody how that's gonna work.
What's gonna happen is, once the map has been approved, still gotta go through a public process, public comment process. Then it gets approved. Once the map is approved, the legislation says that is what the state will work with in terms of defensible space and supposedly home hardening, home design. The home design part is not part of the fire marshal, state fire marshal's purview.
Correct.
It resides with, what is the one at the state, the Board of Development or whatever, the Builders Association really controls that. And when they will implement that is anybody's guess. What we're looking at is, yeah, they'll be able to do defensible space fairly easily because that's landscape. What we want to have them do is institute and pass the ruling for home construction to meet the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, standards for fire-resistant homes. That's going to mean two things. One is the type of materials used for construction. So Class A roofs, no shake, organic materials, shingles, ceramic tile, anything that doesn't burn. The siding should be fire resistant, meaning hardy plank, composite material, at least 5 feet up from the ground. Doesn't have to be the entire siding. There has to be vents. If there are vents, there should not be any open vents, the type that are on an overhang. They should be enclosed completely. If it's a roof vent, an attic vent, it should have 1/8 inch steel mesh material. If there are foundation vents, they have to be 1/8 inch or self-closing vents. Then the landscaping is no flammable material in the first 3 feet surrounding the structure. And then there's all sorts of rules and guidelines for the vegetation going out to 50 feet. And that varies depending upon what you have planted there.
Well, 50 feet, that's like 2 or 3 tax lots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes across borders of people's properties. One of the things that is not going to be permitted is, or not encouraged, is going to be wood fences that tie to the house.
That's interesting considering the developer in Stevens Ranch just put a huge wood fence surrounding everybody's property, and I think it's pine. I don't even think it's cedar.
Doesn't matter what it is, if it's a wooden fence and it attaches to the house, which it invariably does.
And every one of them, because I was out there yesterday, the backyards look like they're maybe 10 feet long, maybe. And the wooden fences run along all the sides and along the back, and they are attached to the house.
That'll be like a wick.
It's exactly a fire ladder leading to this ground field leading to the house. The more interesting thing that we're focusing on is the Institute for Insurance and Business Home Safety, IBHS, which is the insurance industry's research arm for natural disasters, hail, wildfire, hurricane, anything. They came out with standards based upon scientific data, looking at homes that survived and homes that did not survive after a fire. Not just a wildfire, but also what we're calling now urban fires. Because they're finding, first off, is after a wildfire, trees survive and the homes burn. The homes burn down the trees, not vice versa. The homes burn down because of ember storms. Small little embers that land somewhere near the house on something that will burn. That's why you have defensible space, so that you have nothing near the house that will burn and set it on fire. What they found is one of the main culprits for burning are patio furniture. They're all made out of plastic. They'll melt, they'll ignite, and they keep burning. Coconut or one of the material mats, door mats, perfect fire start. And they're right up against the foundation of the house, usually near a door, which will then burn. Because the wood, the frames of the door will deform, the windows will fall out, and the fire will go right in. So all those things are part of why we know how homes burn. The biggest factor from IBHS, looking at the Lahaina fire, their post-fire analysis says it corroborates everything they've seen with all the other major fires, like starting with the Berkeley Hills back in, I think it was 87, all the way to Paradise and the Lahaina fire last year, is that there are three factors that are determining whether homes will burn in a conflagration. In other words, will massive number of homes burn. The first is the weather, which they conclude you can't do much about. The second is terrain, which you also can't do much about. The third factor was the distance between structures. And they said structural density, the built environment. Any home within 10 foot of another home that's on fire will ignite, even if you have home hardening.
So according to new Bend Development Code, that means the entire southeast side of town
Will burn.
is going to ignite,
Now, the interesting part, they
even
said-
if they're built to these new standards. We definitely need to bring this up
yeah.
with the city council.
Well, what they said was, okay, 10 feet, you will burn. At 20 feet, you stand a chance of not burning if firefighters are on site protecting your house. If they're
Current,
not there, then the critical distance between structures is 40 feet.
so current building code for RS is a 5-foot setback on either side and the rear.
Right.
Or no, either side. The rear, I think, is slightly more.
So basically what we're doing by infilling, as required, they say required by state rule, is that we are putting fuel into the developments in the form of homes, which are stick-built. As long as we build stick-built homes within 10 feet of each other, the ember ignites one, it will ignite houses in close proximity and across the street, because that house will start throwing out embers. And they said, well, if your home is hardened, why will it burn? That's because radiant heat will be so high from a burning house, or is as high in a burning house, that it will cause the window frames to deform. When the window frames deform, the glass cracks, eventually falls out. You just created a great big hole for embers to go in. If not from another fire, then from the home that's on fire next to you. And that will go to the next house and it will cascade. And they said, if you have winds over 5 to 10 miles per hour, and this starts happening with all this fuel in close proximity to each other, you will have a major urban fire. NFPA rules are, their standard is, for a house fire, you have to have 15 firefighters on site for a house fire. That really translates to 3 pieces of equipment, 15 personnel. A city like ours can probably handle 3, maybe 4 house fires simultaneously before we empty all of the fire stations. If we have homes in an urban fire, all bets are off.
Right, you're just
I'm just
so pleasant,
pleasant.
man.
I mean, this is what we're trying to get through to people, is that why are we building homes, affordable homes for the people who can least afford to rebuild the home in a situation where their home is guaranteed to burn down when the urban fire starts.
You know, something interesting, the city council has been talking, the past city council, I should say, it's the new city council, has been talking about DEI and marginalized communities and building affordable housing. There was a project that was proposed along the Deschutes River, right by the surf park on the east side of the river. And it was determined that it was a floodplain. So they basically, it got denied, and now there's a park there. So if we're not going to build homes in a floodplain, but we're going to build them in a fire plane,
Yeah.
it doesn't really make sense. And I've just got to ask that council, you know, same thing. So there's
Last part, is the latest thinking from the NFPA is that we get rid of the two terms. One is wildfire. We're not talking about wildfires anymore with global warming and the way our cities are being, you know, and the way we're going closer and closer to forests. Wildfire gives people the wrong impression that the fire comes because of trees burning and embers coming from the forest. We should be talking about fire. And if you want to get serious, we should be talking about urban fire. And that's the fires we've been seeing in LA, Lahaina, Paradise, Santa Rosa rather. They're all urban fires, homes setting fire to other homes. And the other is that we should stop talking about the WUI. There is no such thing as a wildland urban interface anymore. It's anything that can burn should be considered a source of fire. And considering that 80% of fires are started by people, it's pretty clear that where most people are in the cities. It's just a matter of time before we have a kitchen fire.
okay. So this is a question for our board. We have a quorum here today. A date for our general meeting. Fill out your calendars.
I would prefer April over March personally.
Okay. I mean, April, well, it's May too. So you're shooting for April?
April's good. April works.
Jennifer?
for me. Yeah, April looks okay for me.
So I know on April 17th in this building, there is going to be a summit regarding workforce housing. So let's not shoot for the 17th.
What about the 24th?
Shall we shoot for the 24th?
Sounds good.
It works for me. Thursday, the 24th.
Ross, by chance, do you have that scheduling calendar that the Parks guy was selling us up available still?
I can.
Well, if it's available, I say we schedule it.
Just to let you know, I'm out of town April 13th to May 14th.
We're not changing our plans.
No, you guys have your meeting.
So we've already decided, our primary topic will be what we just discussed, except we'll have professionals to answer questions.
What's the name of that one city fire person you were talking about?
Her name is Michelle Steele, Melissa Steele, excuse me. I have her contact information if you need it.
I'm thinking maybe a good thing for her to talk to us too. As well.
Yeah, so her task is to go and talk to everybody in the southeast area, not beyond just the city of Bend. But she highly recommended that we have somebody from the building code department, because they're the ones that will be able to answer questions regarding how homes are constructed, should be constructed, and what the future will look like On that note, did you figure out the calendar?
It's available.
So let's put us down. We normally go, schedule it from, if possible, from 4 to 8 for the main room.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that after the meeting.
Okay, nope, that's fine. Normally we have 3 topics. There's another topic that sort of popped up. Recently, I was at a meeting at the Environmental Center a few months ago. If I don't know if anybody's received it in their email or who your trash provider is, but there's a new recycle service that is basically started up due to new Oregon recycling laws. I recommend that we reach out to the landfill and to, does anybody other than Cascade Disposal cover our area?
Not that I know.
So then, and to Cascade Disposal, and I'd love to see a presentation from them. I read the email and I've already sat through some talks and I still have questions. So I'd like to see like them bring in, this is recyclable, this is not, this is what you should bring if you decide to sign up for this new program. I don't know. Are you familiar with this new program that they're advertising? So it's $10 a month. They bring you a metal container and then various different kinds of plastic bags, and you are to pre-sort your recyclables even more. And
Based on the
then,
number underneath them, I assume.
no, it's not even that, because they're also talking about recycling batteries. There's a whole list of like things that, it's not just plastic, it's expanding the entire consumer waste recyclability. And then you pay, they don't come every month or they don't come every week, but after your bags are full, you then call them, put them out, they come and pick their bags up. And it's an additional fee. And I think that would be good for everybody to learn about.
Yeah, for
A little bit more positive than we're all gonna burn in hell.
Right. A lot more positive than that.
Yeah,
I was surprised to learn, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago that the only plastic items that are recyclable have either a 1 on them or occasionally a 2.
yeah.
And then Oregon has one of the better programs, so you can actually get the 2s recycled as well. If it's got a 5 or a 7,
Yeah.
throw it away, it just ends up in the land.
That whole triangle was created by the fossil fuel industry decades ago as a joke to the environmentalists about reduce, reuse, recycle. It is truly one of the largest scams of a major industry in America or in the world. That said, normally we don't have to have 3. Normally we do have 3 topics or 3 presentations. We'll of course have an election. Do you guys have any thoughts on a 3rd? We don't have to decide tonight. We know the date.
Seems like the fire thing.
It's
is
gonna be
huge. And if you're gonna be, if you're gonna be thorough and the
Okay.
kind of questions you're gonna be getting, the fire is gonna take a lot. of
Okay.
time.
I agree.
Especially if we have somebody from insurance.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun.
That was one of the
If
other
you can-
recommendations from Melissa is to try to find an insurance representative
They'll be honest.
well, if anything, they're gonna pick up new business if they're interested, or they can lie to us
Yeah.
and they're gonna get people canceling their their whatever.
Can we allocate like a decent amount of time to Q&A? Because it always seems like we're rushing through Q&A.
That's okay. So then sounds like we'll stick to,
Yeah. The fire-
it'll just basically be the elections, basic minor board chat. The recycling thing, which people will have questions, but I think that presentation is 20 minutes. And then we can have at least a whole hour, if not longer, for this fire conversation, which,
It'll be plenty. We could always fill it with remarket comments and information, but
Yeah.
well, we can, whichever counselor decides to be our representative this year, we can always allocate 5 minutes of public notice to them. Because it's not a political year, at this point, I don't know if there's gonna be a levy or anything, but we can either hold a separate meeting or whatever. Okay, that's good. So that's a big topic that we've determined. So we'll start working on that the next, or basically ASAP. Does anybody listening have any questions or comments about anything we've talked about yet tonight?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait,
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you have a comment?
Just fascinating information. Good to hear. I wish more people could hear this. Yeah.
Well, this is recorded. It's on, we have a YouTube channel, and this is literally just the planning for the, just leave that date open, April 24th. It's going to be very informative. Anything else?
that's it.
That's definitely covers our agenda and then a little something. So.
Cool.
That covers our agenda. It sounds like we can end this meeting early unless anybody else has a topic for us. Either of you? All righty. I call this